The Place is an Italian film that centers on the fates of a seemingly random group of 9 strangers who each come into contact with a mysterious man who sits at the same table at the same restaurant every single day and who they believe possesses the power to fulfill their greatest wishes. He is able to give them what they want, but for every single wish, the man has requests of his own and requires in exchange for them to carry out a certain task, which is different for each individual. A police officer wants to find the money stolen in a burglary, a nun who has lost her faith in God wants to find it again, a mechanic wants a night of sex with a model he lusts after, a father wants to save the life of his seriously ill son, an old woman wants to heal her husband who is suffering from Alzheimer's, a young woman wants to become more beautiful, a blind man wants to regain his sight, and a young woman wants her husband to love her as passionately as humanly possible. So as you can see, some of their requests are more possible than others, and depending on what they wish for, this wishmaker can sometimes ask them to do some pretty horrible things, like hurting other people or even murdering other people, or sometimes he can ask them to directly interfere with what he demanded from other clients. But the good thing is that he says to each and every one of them that anytime they can back down and cancel the deal if they so wish. Lying about completing their tasks won't help anything because their wishes won't be granted anyway, and some of them do try to lie about that stuff. So what we get is this entangled web of these people's lives intertwining. The entire film shamelessly takes place in this single location, this restaurant. That could easily be a play. All of these scenes consist of one of these clients talking to our main guy at the same table at the same restaurant, and everything that happens outside, everything that has to do with these characters' lives and their actions are revealed to us through these conversations. It starts becoming very interesting when we realize that they start talking about each other, when either one of them is talking about a man they have seen or a woman they have met, and we realize that they are talking about one of the other clients that has just interacted with our main guy during the previous scene. It was quite clever of the filmmakers to call this restaurant The Place, and to name our protagonist The Man, just simply The Man without any real name, because it makes the space and this wishmaker the sort of mystical presence that can be interpreted in many different ways. Basically, the film is inviting us to project our own interpretations on it. It's pretty metaphorical, and probably the first thing that would come to anyone's mind is the cultural motif of the Faustian Pact. Basically, at a first glance, it would appear that these people are kind of making a deal with the devil. Is the reason why this guy is asking them to do some of these horrible things. Basically, in order for your wishes to come true, you have to sell your soul. You have to sell your soul's well-being by hurting other people or by destroying other people's lives. Obviously, the characters ponder this question as well. The old woman asks him in the beginning, "How do I know you're not the devil?" And his reply to that is that you don't. And at the end of the film, the nun actually asks him if she can ask him a question, and his reply to that is, "Yeah, sure, you can ask me, but not the question you're thinking about right now because I can't answer that." And I'm pretty sure she was going to ask him whether or not he is God. So it's not made perfectly clear whether or not he is or isn't. I mean, whether he is this more satanic figure or more of this godlike figure, maybe a little bit of both, or maybe none of it. Maybe it doesn't even have anything to do with anything like that at all. Maybe he's not even as omnipotent as we would like to think. Maybe he's just a piece in a puzzle, a piece in a mechanism. He definitely doesn't seem like he is enjoying what he is doing. Maybe he is just bound to his fate like everyone else. Maybe he is just the embodiment of this idea that everything has a price. He is quite the elusive type during conversations. He never reveals anything about himself, and he always responds in this incredibly blunt and indifferent and cryptic manner whenever his clients are talking about anything else besides their tasks. Basically, he is interested in 2 things only: details and feelings. What exactly did you do? How did it happen? And how did it make you feel? He is literally searching for the devil in the details, and so he is this sort of devilish figure in that sense. For a while during the film, I was kind of thinking that maybe there is no mystical or fantastical element to this at all. Maybe this guy is just bluffing. But after a while, it is made clear that he can truly grant any single wish, wishes that can basically be considered miracles. He makes it clear that there isn't anything you can't ask for as long as you pay the price. He always keeps his end of the bargain, and obviously all of the people who complete their tasks get their wishes granted. I think it's like half of them, maybe 4 or 5 people. But it's also very interesting that in the end, there is one person who doesn't complete his task and gets his wish granted anyway. So it's when you realize that the rules of this game aren't really all that clear. I mean, you can be righteous and unwilling to sell your soul and have your wish be granted anyway. You can be righteous and be unwilling to sell your soul and not have your wish granted. Also, obviously, as to be expected, there are some people who do complete their tasks and do truly realize that the price was way too high. The film definitely does touch upon certain themes like redemption and mercifulness, and while it does seem to have certain elements of many Christian traditions, like the deal with the devil and all that, it still feels pretty cryptic. It still raises a lot of questions without really answering a lot of them. It still doesn't paint a clear enough picture. I think the most enigmatic figure in the entire film is definitely Angela, or Angel of course, who is the waitress at this restaurant and who interacts with our man during evenings, and contrary to all the other people, she really doesn't want anything from him. She is just trying to figure him out and to understand his personality and his motivation, and she is pretty much the complete opposite of him. She is kind and friendly and warm, while he, on the other hand, is cold and indifferent and exhausted. Nevertheless, she does manage during the film to bring some humanity out of him. I think the film is also definitely about different levels of maturity, because we can see certain characters who are immature asking for immature things, you know, like the woman who wants to become more beautiful, while other characters who are more mature ask for more mature things, like helping a loved one. I think it's definitely the old woman in the story who is mature enough to challenge this wishmaker, to put him in his place, to teach him a lesson, because she is actually tasked with probably the most horrible demand of setting off a bomb in a crowded area. So what does she do? She brings a bomb to the place, to the restaurant, because she says that if she has to kill many people, then at least she knows she will kill someone who is guilty, meaning the wishmaker. And this is actually the first time we see this guy be visibly concerned and be vulnerable and afraid and thrusted out of his element, not necessarily for his own self, for his own safety, but for the safety of his newfound friend, Angela. This is the moment when the old woman starts laughing and reveals that she has actually fooled him. She says that she would never do such a thing, because while her wish would be granted and she would be able to go home and to see her husband, who is suffering from Alzheimer's, be his old self again, she would never be the same, because she would become much more like the wishmaker. And she says that you disgust me. So that's definitely a very interesting moment when we can actually see the very foundation of what makes this guy tick be shaken to the core. You know, having actually probably for the very first time be concerned about someone else getting hurt. So there are all sorts of different scenarios that play out in many different ways. I think this is definitely a very good film and I would highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. My question to you guys would be, what are some of your films that have this sort of fantastical, mystical element that is able to grant wishes but for a price? Really curious to know about your answers. Don't forget to leave them down below in the comment section. Thanks for watching my review, folks, as always. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you have. And what can I say? Until I'll see you again, don't forget to stay cool, stay awesome, and goodbye, people.